In the pantheon of obligatory legacy sequels, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is perhaps the least necessary. After the first Beetlejuice, there was little story or world building left to explore, though that didn't stop the animated series and years of sequel speculation. But that's part of why Tim Burton's follow-up to his beloved 1988 horror comedy works. At no point does the 36 years later revival tout itself as capital I important, even though it confers a sense of weight and grandeur on existing characters and events.
She's a legend.
While it features a whole lot less story than the original, which got by on its wry tone and imaginative production design, despite being narratively insubstantial, each decision Burton makes here is simply geared toward cartoonishly macabre fun in the vein of its predecessor. It's fine. At times, it's even charming. And it doesn't need to be much more than that.
Jesus, Bob. Can't you see him concentrating here? You know, Bob, long-distance relationships can be difficult, especially when one of you is dead.
Decades after her initial brush with the strange and unusual, former antisocial goth Lydia Dietz now uses her sixth sense to host the popular paranormal TV series Ghost House. With the help of her overeager boyfriend/manager Rory, she's become a minor celebrity, but the past still has a hold on her. And not just because she sports the same updo and spiky fringe as when she was a teen. Anytime Lydia spots a black and white striped outfit, she has momentary flashes of the undead bioexorcist and sex pest Beetlejuice.
I'm gonna make you so happy.
Who tried to forcefully marry her in the first film.
Shall we?
However, Lydia's problems are much more wide-ranging than the previous movie-induced PTSD afflicting her counterparts in other legacy sequels. Her college-aged daughter Astrid, who rejects her mother's supernatural claims, is otherwise a mirror image of the moodier Lydia circa 1988. The death of Astrid's father drives a further wedge between them. Lydia's stepmother Delia continues to be a self-absorbed concept artist, only now on a much larger scale. And her own father, Charles, has recently died a comically horrific death, which feels like a tongue-in-cheek dig at actor Jeffrey Jones, who played Charles in the original before it being later brought up on child pornography charges. The actor is, of course, not brought back for the sequel, but his character's demise plays out at length via CGI-assisted stop-motion. By virtue of this approach to Jones, no one really takes Charles's death seriously, though a few characters pretend to for personal gain, which also proves somewhat awkward. After all, his demise is what brings these scattered characters back together at the old Maitland Dietz house, the setting of the first movie. Burton has always either danced around death or punctured it with humor, but Beetlejuice Beetlejuice does this while also sincerely attempting to confront grief, in the form of Astrid's lack of closure with her dad.
Death is hard.
Yeah, sometimes I think life is harder.
Coupled with the movie's surprising in-world explanation for the absence of ghost couple Adam and Barbara Maitland, it feels like the sequel is constantly on the verge of a more thoughtful and reflective approach to mortality, though it keeps zigzagging away from this.
We cannot sincerely celebrate all that was good about our dearly departed, not until we release the horror that they inflicted upon us.
However, its tonal mismatches are worth forgiving once the movie's goofy supernatural antics begin. Beetlejuice, who hasn't stopped pining for Lydia, still caters to deceased folks wanting to rid themselves of live guests in their former homes, and has now expanded his operation with the help of dozens of lumbering assistants with shrunken heads and engorged plastic eyes. Just one of the many delightful practical effects that makes Beetlejuice Beetlejuice an ideal gateway to the horror genre for younger viewers.
You're a figment of my imagination.
Really? Is this a figment of your imagination?
It also happens that Beetlejuice's long-dead and long-dismembered ex-wife, Dolores, escapes her confines in the afterlife and staples her body parts back together in the hopes of enacting revenge on him with her demonic, soul-sucking powers. These plot threads don't so much collide as they simply brush shoulders through coincidence, but each one is silly enough to warrant a chuckle. Willem Dafoe, for instance, plays deceased B-movie actor Wolf Jackson, whose obsession with playing a TV cop has led him to form a post-mortem ghoul squad made up of dead, blue-skinned police who might as well be asphyxiated super troopers.
Talking about shenanigans, right? Put those away!
Wolf chases down rule breakers like Beetlejuice, or living people who force their way into the afterlife, as happens here, while coming up with cheesy action movie quips on the fly.
Where's Beetlejuice?
Dafoe is clearly off in his own movie, one that's barely connected to the rest of Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, which, for instance, includes a romantic subplot for Astrid plucked from a YA novel. But like most of the cast, the Spider-Man actor is having infectious fun. Such is the nature of the film as a whole, even though its puzzle pieces rarely fit. Characters and plot threads are often dropped at random, rendering them mere window dressing or exposition.
Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
The afterlife bureaucracy isn't so much a central joke this time as it is an incidental setting, but Burton and screenwriters Alfred Goh and Miles Miller provide enough by way of macabre puns and grisly visual gags to make its fleeting presence worthwhile.
See, I'm willing to do the work.
While Beetlejuice Beetlejuice's vision of the underworld retains its analog charm, the sequel also features Burton's attempts to update both his setting and vocabulary. Sometimes this works wonders, with self-absorbed characters like Rory using therapy speak to hide their true intentions.
Oh, dear.
I'm good.
Other attempts, unfortunately, aren't nearly as character-centric. They play like half-hearted jabs in the direction of the internet, influencers, streaming, and social media, and are far less effective. However, despite these uneven attempts to reckon with a changing world, Burton, perhaps rightly, neither tries to modernize Beetlejuice by subverting or correcting him, nor does he double down on the character's creepiness by sending him chasing after another teenager.
First of all, I want you two kids to know this is a safe space, okay?
He's still an obnoxious imp, and Michael Keaton plays him with the same unapologetic mischief as in the first film. Only this time he has a few more kooky creature-featured tricks up his sleeve, rather than a penchant for underage girls. If only by virtue of the fact that Winona Ryder is now playing Lydia in her 50s. Granted, what's lost in the process is the realization of one of the movie's central themes, i.e., Lydia seeing herself in Astrid and trying to protect her from experiences with which she now lives. But that's far too serious a story for Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, a film in which characters brush aside the idea of trauma as some kind of trendy modern invention, even though it might arguably be the correct one. It's a silly little sequel to an equally silly original, and it's hard to imagine wanting or needing much more from it.
Beetlejuice.
Feel free to express yourselves. Don't be afraid.
Tim Burton allows the cast of Beetlejuice Beetlejuice to have fun, even if they're all off in separate movies that barely overlap. Its story is intentionally robbed of dramatic weight. But this makes way for the goofy, imaginative practical effects of Burton's early days, resulting in a small-scale legacy sequel that doesn't take itself too seriously because it doesn't need to.
What the f***?
For more movie reviews, check out what we thought of The Crow and Alien Romulus. And for everything else, stick with IGN.